He's a former NFL coach down with the Dolphins. But then, he goes to Alabama afterwards and cements his legacy as the greatest college football coach of all time, and also a man who's becoming a TV megastar through 3 months of television. Ladies and gentlemen, Coach Nick Saban.
Yeah, Coach.
Coach, I don't know if you heard. But,
You're unbelievable in your introduction.
No, I ain't shit. I don't know if you. We just had the highest ratings in the history of College Game Day. Thank you, jolly old Saint Nick Saban. Thank you, jolly old Nick Saban. And it's not just because your name, brother. People show up 1 or 2 times off a name. You got to have ability and talent, and you have that in spades in everything that you touch, which is why I appreciate your friendship. Now, let's get back to this. Michael Penix, I don't know if you saw the video where he laid out how he kind of watched Kirk Cousins and just said, thank you to Kirk Cousins, and now he's going to take everything he learned from him, and he's going to try to put it on the field. He's still a rookie. I assume he's going to struggle. There's going to be situations like that. But the off-the-field shit, just as important as the on-the-field shit in the NFL, do you think we're going to lose? Is there going to become a generation with this NIL stuff and everybody being superstars since they're in high school and paid and rich and everything? Do we think we're going to lose that ability to kind of put ego aside and be hey, how do I do this actually? I'm almost worried about that, Coach. You would know a lot better than me, I guess. Frozen. Gone. You don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it either. Coach, you there?
I'm here.
Okay, we lost you there for a second. That's on us. Do you think there's a chance that is going to become much less common, where people are going to be okay kind of putting ego aside and learning from a vet and trying to understand that it's a different world in the NFL than maybe anywhere else that you've ever been?
Well, I think, first of all, the number one reason there's such a failure rate with quarterbacks, even guys that are very high draft picks, is they come in with great expectations. They really don't know for sure all the things they need to do to be able to play in the National Football League. They go out there and play before they're ready. They lose their confidence, and then bad things happen. And on the other hand, when you have all the situations that you just discussed, whether it was, Aaron Rodgers behind Brett Favre, whatever, and these guys have a chance to learn and develop, I think they have a much better chance of being successful. And even in Michael Penix's, opportunity to just spend, 3/4 of a season as a backup, no pressure, just learn how to be a professional. I think he has a much better chance to succeed. The guy has great ability. He's got the right mindset. He's a good guy. He's going to be a good leader in the league. So I think he has a better chance to be successful. Now, is it going to be instant? Maybe not, but I think a much better chance than he would have had if he'd had to come in and start right off. And, you get a lot of pressure from the owners and everybody else. If you pick a guy 1, 2, or 3, at quarterback, we got to play the guy. Well, he's not ready to play, and then bad things happen sometimes. Some guys can handle it, some guys can't. So I think there's a lot to be said about guys that learn how to be professionals and have respect for development. You mentioned it in your case. All right, and that's the one thing we're losing right now, in college football, is the mindset that if I don't play right off the bat, I'm a failure, and then I want to transfer and leave. So there's never a commitment to, doing the things you need to do to improve, to develop as a player, and I think that's going to carry over in the NFL as well.
Yeah, the ripple effect of not having to stare down adversity and beat it as opposed to just run from it is certainly going to have lasting impressions, I think, on a lot of things. Hopefully the dogs survive. That is kind of, and I'm not talking about Georgia Bulldogs, although I do believe their program is built with a lot of dogs. I'm just talking about the dogs will survive through it all, even in the new era. I believe that wholeheartedly. Rhett Lashley actually said to us yesterday, he said, the days of what Nick Saban was able to do, and he complimented you, he's saying this is a good thing, where you just stack up 5-star recruiting class and you have a pipeline almost, which you had, obviously. And we've heard a lot of guys that have gone to Alabama come out and say that when you're recruiting them, you actually told them, not sure if you're going to play your first 2 years, but every day of practice, you're going to be playing against the best people at their position in the country. So you're going to get better. You're going to get better. Then when your time comes, you're going to be ready for the moment, and then bang, you're going to be in the NFL. He doesn't think that's possible anymore because these 5-stars or these recruiting classes, they're not going to sit for a year or two, because if they just put their name in a portal, there's a chance they're going to get $800,000, $1 million, and playing time immediately. immediately. Do you agree with that? And did you think about that whenever you were thinking about retirement from coaching?
Well, I think it's obviously good for the players if they can make that kind of money, as college players, which was, never allowed. We weren't allowed to have anything prior to 5 years ago. But I do think on the development side of it, it is not beneficial to players. I think that when you have to go out and compete, and I don't think you can be a good competitor, you mentioned it, if you can't overcome adversity. I mean, that's a part of being a good competitor. I mean, I don't care what sport you're playing or when you're playing, if it's golf, if it's tennis, if it's soccer, I don't care what it is. There's going to be times when, you have a bad play. There's something that you have to overcome. And I think people learn to do that in the process of development and what they have to do to get better so they can compete. And you're absolutely right. All I ever promised a guy was an opportunity. And I said, you're going to have an opportunity. I told Jonathan Allen, you're going to practice every day against Cam Robinson. All right, he's going to win the Outland Trophy. You're going to win the Outland Trophy. All right, but that's how you're going to get better. And guys bought into that because they were looking to the future. How can I develop value for my future? Now guys are looking to where can I develop value right now, today? What can I get today? So it's less about playing and being a great player and more about what can I get instantly, in terms of getting in the portal or going to another school. And, nobody talks about the college experience anymore. Nobody talks about graduation. All these things are probably important to the future. And, I actually coached 25 years ago when not very many guys graduated. And there were a lot of stories out there about, guys that didn't do very well when they, got out in the real world and they couldn't play anymore. So I know there are people like yourself who have done extremely well.
Thank you.
And there'll always be cases like that, but there's going to be a lot of people that they should use their football playing opportunities to, develop a career outside the game so they can have success when they can't play.
Yeah, backup plan is always good, even in post-retirement. I think these guys now are much more entrepreneurial savvy, if at least whenever it comes to like digital currency and social media and everything like that. But the whole everything else of what college ball used to be about, I think is obviously out the window. We'll talk to Charlie Baker in the next hour, actually, because I think that April 8th ruling will at least put some answers, but it's going to remain a lot more questions. You obviously heard the athletic director at Alabama. Whenever you promise an opportunity and then say guys are going to go to work, I guess you didn't have to spend as much money, is what people are saying. Now, it's a little different world. They'll figure it out. Roll Tide. Let's talk about Go ahead.
But, Pat, each year it's gotten a little worse. Like, the first year we had name, image, and likeness 4 or 5 years ago, we had a $3 million and everybody was happy. All right, then the next year it was 7. Then the next year it's 10. Then this year it's 13. Now they're looking at 20. I mean, where does it end? And the people who are supporting this, they really get no benefit for it. And I'm sure that there's going to be some instances in the future where those people don't want to continue to support players that aren't there. I mean, how would you feel if you gave them $500,000 to your program and it was to pay certain players and those players all left after 1 year? You would say, I don't know if I'm going to continue to do this.
Yeah, it seems like a poor investment there. Whenever these people have a lot of money, they can invest in a lot of things and their money can make money. They're investing to support their school, but then whenever that money just vanishes and there's nothing, it's like, what am I even doing? I don't even get a parking spot. Yeah. I don't even get a parking spot in this entire thing. Wild, Wild West. Hopefully it'll get settled. We'll talk to Charlie Baker about that. Let's move to these games. Tomorrow night, IU, Notre Dame, kicking off the 12-team playoff up in freezing-ass cold South Bend, Indiana. Now, both these teams will obviously be prepared for the weather because they both live in it and practice in it every single day, so I don't think that's a storyline for this particular game. What is the storyline for this particular game, Coach, in your eyes?
Well, I think number one is, Notre Dame has to play really good complementary football. That's what they've done all year. They really don't blow people out. I think from Indiana's standpoint is they're going to be able to have to handle the pressure that Notre Dame's defense, they pressure 46% of the time. First down, second down, third down, it doesn't matter. And they want to try to create a lot of negative plays, a lot of positive down and distance situations for their defense, and then take advantage of pressuring you on third down. So if Indiana can't handle that, that's going to be a problem. But when people have handled it, like USC did, Notre Dame struggled a little bit on defense and had to count on turnovers to be able to survive. So I think Indiana's probably better than most people think. And I think that, they got a really good opportunity if they can handle the pressure on offense and keep the ball away from Notre Dame, who can run it probably better than they can throw it.
Yeah, I think that's a matter of fact. Riley Leonard's legs are a real threat.
Yeah.
I mean, a real weapon, and they've kind of experienced that throughout the season. I think early in the year, all of them didn't really know what they were, including that big win over Texas A&M. I don't think Notre Dame really knew who they were. I don't think Texas A&M knew who they were. So I think they get that big win. It's obviously a big deal. Then a Northern Illinois loss hits them. And if you read the Players Tribune from Riley Leonard, that was a pivotal point in his entire year. He wrote to the Notre Dame faithful. I think both these teams feel like they got a good draw. And that's why we love it.
Yep.
Let's talk to this Indiana coach, who is obviously a man that you and I both know very well. Go ahead, Con Man.
Yeah, Coach, something Signetti said yesterday on the program was that when Indiana played Ohio State, they had to go to the silent count. And he said he's never doing that again because as soon as they found the signal for the snap that they were basically cooked on offense. Is there a way for IU to kind of combat the noise at Notre Dame if they do have to go silent count, but without using the silent count per se? Like, how do you snap the football if they can't hear what you're saying as the quarterback and you can't use the silent count because they know what the tell is?
Yeah, well, to me, most of these teams in the gun don't use a verbal cadence anymore. They all go on the clap. And when you get used to going on the clap and then you have to go silent, where a lot of NFL teams, they go silent a lot of the time, so it's not anything different for them. And they can actually go on two or leg kick and go on two. But most college teams are not adept at that. So when you try to do it, it can create huge problems. I remember when Tua was playing for us and we played at LSU, we went right down the field, man, right down the field. We got down there by the student section. We got like 4 false starts in a row because we tried to go on silent instead of clapping. And it was it was one of those moments where the coach breaks his headset.
Yeah.
All right, something like that. All right. So I think if Indiana can clap in the game, and they'll be much, much better off than trying to go silent just because they're not used to going silent, and it does help the defense. I mean, it's they can get off on a snap count big time, put you to a huge disadvantage on offense.
Don't you love, though, my favorite thing, because Pat White used to go on clap. We used to go on clap, and then we went on a point and this whole thing. The fake clap is my favorite. We're doing a fake clap, because you're watching on TV, you're like, that was a very poor fake clap. That was not, nobody's falling for that fake clap right there. You need to go ahead and sell that a little bit more. In the NFL, they care about it a lot. Like, cadence count is everything in the NFL. In college, I didn't even think about it not being a high priority. But then if you get caught in a situation that not everybody's on the same page, you can see how that could hurt you. Sig was like, we don't have to do that.
Not doing it.
We're never doing that again. That's what he said yesterday. And I laughed, but I think he was being dead ass serious. Yeah. I don't think he was joking around at all about it. Very important. Ty has a question for you, Coach.
Yeah, Coach, when you look at a lot of these teams, and this kind of goes back to what you were talking about in terms of development, but when you look at a lot of the teams in the college football playoff, their quarterbacks are just one-year guys that transferred in. And with the transfer portal now, we're seeing a lot of these teams who kind of year over year, they just go for one of these quarterbacks. And while they're still, recruiting like 5-star guys or whatever, they're just grabbing transfer quarterbacks year after year, and the young guys are never really getting an opportunity. Do you think that's, for a lot of these like marquee blue blood teams, do you think that's going to be the formula moving forward because we've seen so many of these teams in the playoff be successful, kind of just getting the gun for hire year after year after year?
Well, it seems to be the trend right now, and I think the more people like Oregon who had success doing that with their quarterback, I think other people will try to follow suit. But you can look at other programs who did that, like Florida State this year, and it didn't work out so well, and you really got a problem on your hands. And I think the big thing in all this that people have to understand is where this is going to have a little bit of an effect on parity is the fact that, just like at Alabama, at Georgia, I think Kirby's going through the same thing. You don't lose your frontline players. You recruit a five-star guy, and you're able to recruit really, really well, which Georgia's done, Alabama did the whole time I was there. We always had really good luck in recruiting.
Yeah,
and
luck.
You lose the next guy. Okay, so you have this five-star guy who thinks he should be playing. He doesn't play that much when he's a freshman. Like Marlon Humphrey didn't play when he was a freshman, but he was glad to develop and then become a great player, playing on special teams as a freshman, learned how to play on special teams, now became a great corner. That doesn't happen anymore. In this day and age, Marlon Humphrey's transferring. So you don't have that next best guy to come in, and you have all these holes on your roster and a lack of depth, which I think is something that people really don't look at or understand, because you don't lose your frontline guys, you lose the next guys, which affects the depth of your team. And if you're really going to play in a tough conference, you got to play a lot of tough games, even though I think, we talked about teams that had great schedules not getting into playoffs, but the teams that played the best schedules are going to have the best chance to be successful in the playoffs because they're used to playing against good competition.
You talked about, the depth of a team. That is where special teams comes into play. So you think about what happened with Indiana, Ohio State in that particular game. Now, punter obviously drops snap. That can happen to anybody. Obviously, just a lack of concentration. That'll get fixed going forward. But then a punt return, you got Caleb Downs returning against your second, third string linebacker at Indiana when they had to bring in how many transfer portal guys into this year. Like, that's where it kind of gets exposed too. So in these college football playoffs, that can certainly be a pivotal point in all of it. The depth of a team, Let's talk about a game happening up there in Happy Valley. Go ahead, Tone.
Yeah, Coach, we all know that you love defending the athletic quarterbacks who love to scramble and make plays. Penn State hasn't really had to play an athletic quarterback like they're going to face in Kevin Jennings of SMU this weekend. How do you think Penn State prepares for that if they haven't seen it yet this year? Because I know you can put a wide out there and practice and stuff like that, but obviously that's not the quarterback. How do you go about it?
Well, I think, first of all, it depends on style of play. One of the reasons that we always had difficulty is we played a lot of match coverage. All right, so we had more people turning. Even when we played zone, we matched up zone. So you have people matching patterns all the time, so they're not always looking at the quarterback. And then the guy scrambles and you don't get that immediate, sort of break on the ball. I think Penn State plays a lot of zone. I think the big thing that they're probably emphasizing with their players, I love Kevin Jennings as a player, but his ball security is not what it needs to be, and he's turned the ball over, and when he turns the ball over, they have issues and problems. And I'll bet you that Penn State is saying, we're going to knock the ball off this guy. We're going to knock the ball out of his hand when he has one hand on the ball, even when he runs it. So I don't think you stop a guy like that. I think you got to make this guy beat you throwing it, which I think he's a good thrower. I think the conditions probably will affect SMU a lot more than they're going to affect Penn State. I mean, throwing a cold ball, catching a ball, holding on to a ball when it's cold and you're not used to it is a lot different. So I think Penn State's going to try to knock the ball off this guy and create a lot of turnovers in the game.
How do you feel like the cold's going to affect you tomorrow? You got a face warmer? You ready for this?
I'm concerned. I was actually going to get some coaching points from you.
Hey, just
but one comment that I wanted to make about what you were talking about, depth on a team and special teams.
Yeah.
Don James, who I'm sure Chuck remembers, maybe some of you young bucks don't, was my college coach, great coach at Washington. He used to always tell us, your team is going to be as good as the last 40 guys on the roster, because of exactly what you're talking about, Pat, how it affects special teams and how it affects depth on your team.
I mean, Caleb Downs running that punt back for Ohio State, you just think like, oh, this is the most expensive guy on the field in the modern world that we're in, the most athletic guy on this field, the highest football IQ guy on this field, and probably the guy with the best burst. And then you're just watching him run around. It's like, no shit, Ryan Day was like, let's go ahead and do that, especially for Indiana, a team that is literally trying to build right now. So the second half of that roster is still Indiana football team that didn't exist kind of in the state of Indiana. And Ryan, that was good. Nobody talks about that out of Ryan Day.
No.
That was a good coaching move. That was we can take advantage of this situation right here. And he certainly did it. My advice to you, coaching tips, feet and hands. Let's not do super fashionable boot shit on the feet. Let's keep the feet warm. It's under that desk anyways. You don't need the good-looking boots. Just keep that shit warm. That is the biggest thing. All right, Coach?
I got you. I got you.
If I see some high fashion bullshit on your feet tomorrow, I'm going to tell you deserve whatever's coming, because that's where it gets you. It starts in your toes and then it works its way up your soul, and then all of a sudden it's over.
He's the best.
That's what you need. That's what you need, Coach.
Well, when I coached at the Cleveland Browns in that stadium, the old stadium was right on Lake Erie, and that wind used to blow through there. I know another place where it can hit you and go right through your soul, too.
I can't wait to see you tomorrow. You're the man. Ladies and gentlemen, the GOAT, Coach Saban. Thank you.
Yeah, Coach.